Hello and welcome to Found Footage. I'm Siobhan. I'm once again joined by Casey.
Hi, I'm Casey.
So today we watched a horror comedy from 2019, Dead Don't Die in Dallas, which is a fucking tongue fool.
It is. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I thought it was just The Dead Don't Die, which is the movie from 2018.
Yeah, and it's not the same by any means. I haven't done that much research on the Dead Don't Die, but
Yeah, you're not gonna find Bill Murray in this one.
yeah, there's no Bill Murray in this one. There is, however, Willem Belly, who is a drag queen and star from season 4 of RuPaul's Drag Race. He plays the main character, who is called Beth Ann Fetterman. Like, amphetamine. Do you get it?
I got it.
Did you get it?
Did
Yeah, I got it. I just want to make sure that you got it. So when we picked this, we pretty much picked it because Willem is right on the front cover, and we've both seen Drag Race, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had 2.5 stars on Amazon Prime, and we were like, well, why not? So the expectations going in weren't particularly high, although I think that it fully exceeded expectations.
It actually did. 2.5 stars is not generous at all.
I think that it should have at least 3. Make it to the 3rd star.
Exactly.
But yeah, so it starts on like a news report about this new miracle pill, and it can like boost your immune system so you can like, not have the common cold, and it'll fight against the flu, and it'll fight against AIDS, which is like the big selling point.
Yeah, this is what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so it sort of cuts between two groups of people, and there's like reporters, and it's like gays versus the God-fearing folk. And there's one guy who keeps being like, well, God made AIDS to fight against homosexuality. He keeps calling it Homer-sexuality, which I thought was fucking hilarious.
I thought so too. Like, my God. There was even a woman that was wearing a shirt that said that had Texas on it. I think it said equals, but there was an equal sign as the E, but it had a cross against it, and I was like, oh man, we're in for a treat.
We are in for a treat. So it cuts to like some CGI blood graphics of like blood cells and stuff going through a system over the opening credits, where it introduces us to like all the actors and stuff. The only one that I recognized from seeing anything else was Willem.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. And then there's like a little title card where it's like, oh, Dead Don't Die in Dallas. And you're like, right, cool, that's the movie over. As soon as they mention the title, done. Done. Opening titles and then straight to credits.
Yeah.
But we fully open up at a church. It's pretty empty. There's just a preacher and his wife is putting books out onto the seats. And he's really disappointed that the church is empty today because he was going to talk about the homosexuals.
I was thinking of the way he said it, and he's like,
Yeah.
oh darn, today I was gonna talk about the homosexual. But he didn't even say homosexuals, he just said the homosexual.
Did he? I thought he said homosexuals.
No, he literally just said homosexual.
Amazing. But he sounded
like-
so dejected that he wasn't gonna get to do his big gay speech.
Uh-huh.
So then we cut from this man who wants to do his homosexual agenda talk to Willem in a salon. She's entering, she's like, Ginger, where are you? And then she's like, girl, you never worked this early, blah blah blah. They're in a salon. Yeah, so she's looking for this ginger person. I'm going to refer to her as she throughout the movie because that's the pronouns the character uses, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was.
And it also just keeps it linear in my head because the mass majority of the time, if a queen is in drag, you will refer to them as she.
That's always what I do.
Yeah, so if I start referring to Willem as he, it'll get confused in my head.
We'll just, we'll set the path and we'll follow it.
Yeah. Excellent. And then it cuts from that scene to a kid looking for a tie in his house, and he's getting texts from his boyfriend, and he's like, oh, you want to hang out? And he's like, oh man, Sundays are tough. And then he's like, oh, why don't you just tell your dad? And the guy's like, ha ha ha, very fucking funny. It turns out that his parents are the church people, who are named Samuel and Janice. And then
Samuel, aka Preacher Man, called his son from their church, which was...
oh, it's like across a field. Yeah.
And then we got this wonderful cross-country bit of Ethan running across this field and hopping over a fence. But I just thought that was funny.
To get to his dad. But yeah, there's zombies in front of them, and they're all like, oh, it's nice to see you today at the church, because they know these people, it's members of the congregation, and then they're just like, dripping blood from their mouths.
And growling.
Yeah. And it cuts back to Willem being like, Ginger! And then she says something about Sloppy Joe's, and then she's like, oh, well, Sloppy Joe's got you to come out, yeah! And then this zombie just sort of like shuffles over from the back, and she's like, oh shit! And we cut sort of back to the church again, and the congregation of zombies, and then like a boy sort of shows up, and he sort of falls onto the floor holding like his gun. He's like, they're killing everybody!
My thoughts were, he's gonna eat them! And then he's gonna eat me!
Oh my god! You did good with the quote, although you didn't get it right.
I try.
You did your best, and we all appreciate it. But yeah, so this boy is hurt. He's got like the bits of his intestine bits sort of hanging out a little bit, but he's still alive. So you know, there's some back and forth zombie business between like Willem sneaking around the salon to avoid that zombie and like dipping into a back room, and like the son pushing over like a fucking zombie in front of this church, and like the parents fucking going to get in a car, and like his dad's like, go get a first aid kit from the house. So the boy ends off like Ethan, not just the boy, his name is Ethan.
His name's Ethan.
Yeah, he sort of goes to his house to get a first aid kit, and his parents sort of fuck off in the car with this injured kid, Jesse, and he's just sort of left.
Yeah. They're like, we'll just cut our ties. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So while the church couple driving down the road, they get to like a crossroads, and they're like, wait, do we want to go to the hospital or the police station? And then the wife's like, oh, we should go to the hospital. And then the husband's like, but what if it's happening there too? Oh, well, then we'll go to the police station. Oh, but what if it's happening there as well? I don't know, we need to get him somewhere before he dies. And then the husband turns around, and it's like, I think he already has. Because by this point, Jesse's just sort of flopped over in their backseat.
He's gone.
He's
just gone.
That kid dead. So he, like, performs himself a little sermon, and is like, right, we should just toss him out to the side. And the woman's like, you can't do that to my sweet pie. But the husband's like, wait, when did you start calling him sweet pie? And she's like, I didn't. Nope. Nothing. So it's like, okay, she's had an affair with this younger man, but he sort of zombifies and, like, sits up, and the two humans bail from the car. And then they're like, oh, we need the car. And then they sort of like see him eating the car keys, and they sort of shut the door and leave.
And then it cuts back and he is swallowed.
Yeah, he's like fully chewing on these car keys, like, So then they're running down this street, and they meet Beth, because Beth's running down like through this bit of woods, and they end up on the same bit of street. And they're like, oh, hello. And they're like, hello, Beth Ann. Just giving each other fucking side eyes. And then the preacher's like, oh, you go your way and we'll go ours. And she's like, yeah, too right. And they all set their eyes on the one fucking building.
And then they just race for it.
Yeah.
Beth Ann was wearing cowboy boots that were stilettos.
Yeah. So they get to the building, and the preacher and the wife get in first, and the preacher shuts the door and is like holding it, and Beth's like, let me in, because there's zombies. And obviously nobody wants to get eaten alive. And the wife's like, hey, maybe you should. And he's like, no! Gays are bad, stay outside. And sort of turns around and gets a fucking gun in his face from Phil, who is inarguably the best character. Aside from one that shows up later on, who I think is also great.
That next character is like a close second, but we stand
Phil.
I literally wrote that down.
That we stand Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Phil is like, oh, you better let her inside. And so they let Beth inside, and Phil's also like, if you believe all those things you were just saying about, like, homosexuals and this being their fault, you better get the fuck out. Because Phil has a gun, and you, preacher man, have a bibble. So, who's winning this fight? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Don't bring a bibble to a gunfight.
Those are words I live by.
Hell yeah. And there's like a little like time lapse where Phil's outside killing a bunch of zombies, and then there's like another one outside. Like, Phil turns to the preacher and is like, so what are you gonna do about it? And the preacher's like, what? Phil's like, well, I've killed like 12, What are you gonna do about this one?
Preacher's like, well, I mean, you've got a gun, and I don't have a weapon. I mean...
Yeah. So Phil gives him a crowbar, and then he has to go out and, like, deal with that one. And he's like, the Lord gave me strength.
Like, the actual, like, bloody scenes that they had in this was so, like... Obviously, they didn't look super real, but they were really good and fun to watch.
They were very, like, B-movie good, whereas, like, you get some fucking big budget movies and the fucking gore looks absolute shit, whereas this knows that it's kind of a B movie. Like, there's occasionally like a flicker across the screen, like they've got like a slightly like B grade like filter on it. Like, they know what they're making with this. Yeah. And they do it well.
They do. I just really like that it didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
And still made something really alright and, like, fun to watch.
Yeah, like, I thought it was incredibly entertaining.
I did as well. Also, you know me, I am a sucker for, like, practical effects. Not, like, CGI and stuff.
I was gonna be
that took them. It's fine, we got there in the end.
In the end. But did it even matter?
Of course it did, Bon.
Thanks. So we cut to two women, / drag queens in a van driving down the road, and they are called Connie and Tipper. They're driving to see Beth / Willem, their pal, and they're having back and forth banter, and it's amazing. And like, Connie's like, oh, blah de blah about your stab wound, and then Tipper's like, don't tell anybody got stabbed, and I got a rib remove. Fish don't get stabbed, they get ribs removed.
Which is hands down the best quote of the entire movie.
The best quote. It's like, fish don't get stabbed, they get ribs removed. And then we cut to Ethan, and he's in, like, a general store, and he's alone, and then, like, you see him get grabbed, and it cuts again. And then back in, like, the store type place where they are, it doesn't really make it any clear whether it's a store or whether it's, like, a storage. I don't know, but the place where our main sort of group is currently. It cuts to them finding a boy who's like, I live here. Because they're like, what are you doing here? And he's like, I fucking live here. What are you doing here? And people are like, why are you living here? He's like living in like a cupboard or like the basement or some shit.
It looked like he was living in Harry Potter's little like nook under the stairs.
Yeah. And his name is Chaveau. Chaveau. And Beth is like, that's a fucking drag queen name. And he's like, oh, I got kicked out for being gay. And the preacher's like, I can see why your parents are disappointed in you.
A lot of what the preacher says is just like way too real.
Yeah. And then I was going to say, and then we get like a little bit of Janice, like the pastor's wife, being like, oh, I'm sort of worried about my son. And Willem's like, tweet him. Like, you tried messaging him? Oh, tweet him. Like that. Like the kids do Twitter.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Twitter at FoundFootageYT. Is there anything that you would like to plug while we're here?
Just found footage.
And so we get a bunch of like dialogue and backstory where you find out that, like, obviously this preacher is like, well, it's all the fault of the gays, and the gays are the reason of AIDS and stuff, and, like, Willem's obviously fighting back, and we find out that the preacher and another eccentric family of preacher folk from Kansas picketed Willem's husband's death. Like, they picketed his funeral, they came to the graveyard, and, like, that's, no matter how you feel about a subject, you don't go to somebody's fucking funeral.
Yeah.
Like, that is not your place, man.
It was a really serious, like, scene.
Yeah.
I think Willem did really well. I mean, obviously Willem's not like a super professional actor, but like she did really well.
Yeah.
Totally full of emotion, and I felt really quite upset about that. But
like, it's extended a little bit where, like, sort of Willem sort of wanders off, and then, like, the wife goes to apologize, and he's like, it's not the fact that you had signs that say, like, God hates faggots and stuff. It's not the fact that, like, you believe what you believe, like, you're entitled to that. It's the fact that you came to the graveyard, and, like, his family, including, like his husband's family, like, including his 7-year-old brother, had to witness all of that, which is like, damn, movie, you dropping some shit.
No, some real heartbreaking stuff there.
Yeah. And I've also got the note that Willem's makeup is still on fucking point.
Oh my god, Willem's makeup was on point throughout the entire
movie. There is, like, everybody else tends to get, like, a little bit messy and stuff, whereas Willem just looks fucking on point in the entire film.
Obviously, she has to be if she's, like, the main girl.
Yeah, she is the main girl. And so we cut back again to Ethan, and he's sat with two folks who I discover later that the husband's called Ruben. I'm not sure of the wife's name.
I never caught the wife's name.
A lot of the time in the subtitles and stuff, they're just sort of referred to as Mr. and Mrs. Martinez. And then they, like, have a prayer, and the husband's, like, saying some stuff, and you're like, oh, do you know that Ethan's a little gay boy?
The husband right off the bat sounds like a bigot.
Yeah, he does. He just seems kind of like a dick.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, they go to bed, and then there's, like, guns firing and stuff, and Ethan is on the couch, and he's texting his boyfriend, and the girl comes through and is like, oh, I'm just checking on you, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, we are all how we are supposed to be. So she's kind of like, hey, I know you're a little queer boy, but that's okay by me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was so sweet. She's just like, I think God made us all the way we were meant to be, because he doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's nice. I wish I'd caught her fucking name.
Honestly, I think she's just billed as Mrs. Martinez.
She probably is. She is just billed as Mrs. Martinez. And so we cut back to our group with, like, Willem and Phil and, like, the preachers and the little cupboard gay boy. And we get some, like, backstory when, like, Phil's a boxer, and Willem's like, damn, you could fuck shit up. And she's like, damn, your arms are like baby meatloafs. And Phil's like, oh, I'm a retired boxer now because women won't fight me and men won't fight me, you know what I mean? So it turns out that, like, they're looking for a radio or something, and Chauvel's like, oh, I thought we were just looking for stuff to use. And they're like, what? And he's like, I've got a radio in my bag. And Willem's like, I said I fucking love radios, faggot. Which I'm gonna point out, as a gay, I think it's okay for me to use the word in this context.
Yeah, I agree.
I would not be saying it if I was not. So just remember that it's a bad word.
It's not a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
Unless you yourself are homosexual and don't say it in a mean way.
Yeah. And so we go back to Ethan. So these two guys break in looking for food, and they're like, oh, they're coming this way, all fucking zombies and stuff. And Mr. Martinez is like, well, this is ours, you're just gonna have to GTFO. And so there's, like, a little bit of, like, a scuffle and stuff, and we've found that the names of the two guys are Braden and Teddy. And Braden was one of the gay guys at the beginning who was talking about, like, the miracle pill, and so like I vaguely recognized him from the beginning. And so yeah, so there's a scuffle, and then like Brayden has Ethan with like a knife to his throat, and he's like, hey you Mrs., put food in a bag for us, and Teddy, get that guy's gun. So Teddy's got the guy's gun, and then they're like, oh lady, put the food in the bag at the door, and then there's like zombies, and then like Mr. Martinez has to get the gun back to shoot the zombie, and then there's just a whole lot of just shuffling and scuffling.
Yeah, just a big ol'
shuffle scuffle. The big old shit show shuffle scuffle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That describes it perfectly.
Yeah. And so they're outside and they're like running, and then like Teddy gets eaten, and we sort of cut back to the others, and Chauveau is texting somebody, and Willem's like, oh, let me see, I'm bored. And it turns out that his boyfriend is Ethan, who is the preacher couple's kid.
Everyone does a big gasp.
We knew. We been knew, you know.
We knew. But that's only because we're like movie pros.
We're movie pros, and also they're the only two young homosexuals.
Yeah, but it's mostly that we're movie pros, right?
Mostly that we're incredibly gifted in the art of knowing what things are going on when. So Chauveau's like, oh yeah, he's on his way here with some people, and Willem's like, oh, let's see if they can stop and get some beer. And then it just sort of cuts to a fucking card in the middle of the screen where it's like, missing reel, we apologize, theater management. Which it's like, because obviously this is a B movie and stuff, it's like, that is a really sort of like a cop-out and a creative way to be like, yeah, well, we're not showing you how they got here, they're here now.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
I thought it was great.
We got some like cool on-screen effect of like the reel burning, so I mean,
yeah,
I was thoroughly entertained.
Mm-hmm. I totally liked it. It was totally appropriate for this movie as well.
Yeah, it was. It was.
And so the groups are kind of split up slightly. Some of them are in, like, the top part of this building, because there's, like, stairs outside, and some of them are in the bottom part of this building, but, like, they're all together, but they're split. And Brayden is coughing, and so he's just sort of doing that. And then Janice and Mr. Martinez are having a smoochy smooch up in a room, and this woman seems to be having an affair with everybody.
With every young man in the small town they hail from.
Every young man. And then, like, Willem walks in, and is like, oh shit, and she's like, don't tell my husband, and Willem's like, well, sort of walks away. And I don't have a note about it, but at this point, Mr. Martinez picks up, like, a fucking machete from, like, a tabletop, and I'm like, is he gonna fucking try and chop up Willem?
Oh, I didn't even actually notice him pick up the machete. I thought, like, because obviously that takes place later on, I'm like, where the heck did he pull that from?
He picked it up from a tabletop there. I don't know whether he got it somewhere else or during the real burn, but he picked it up there. I noticed it, like, quite predominantly, and I was like, oh shit, you better not kill Willem. He doesn't. And then, so they get back to where Brayden is, with Phil, and Brayden's like, tie me up, and then there's that scene, and then it switches to the other characters, and then Ethan and Chauveau are going to go and, like, barricade the door, because his dad's like, Ethan, go barricade that door, and Ethan's like, I'm gonna need some help. So they go, and then they have a wee kiss, and it's hashtag gay, but his dad sees. And so it then cuts back, and Brayden's like, oh, it's this fucking pill. Like, the miracle pill. It's like everybody else has been experiencing symptoms too, so that's what the cause of this is. Which, we been knew.
We knew that was gonna happen.
We knew. I mean, like, I did read the summary of the movie before we watched it, but also we been knew.
No. Movie pros.
Movie pros.
We just know.
And then I've written down the quote from Willem where she's like, oh, I had one of those, but my friend thought it was a Molly. And I'm like, it's just that. So, like, she obviously didn't take the pill, but, like, yeah.
I was gonna say, did she actually just take it and she's just magically immune to it? Or was that just...
Well, maybe her friend took it.
I don't know.
Who knows, man. And so they're like, oh, we need a plan. Who's got a car? Preacher lady's like, we got one down the road a bit. And they're like, sweet, where's the keys? And she's like, inside Jesse. Inside the boy. So their plan is to go and slice open Jesse for some keys, because Willem's like, well, he's gotta still be in the area. You know what I mean? He's gotta still be around these parts.
It shouldn't be that hard to find.
It shouldn't be that hard to find a zombie boy with keys in his stomach. And so we cut again to the preacher, and he shuts Chauveau back in, like, that cupboard type thing where he came out of earlier, and he gives Ethan, the big hefty homophobic talking to, and Ethan's like, listen, Dad, you should just, I know you don't approve, but like, you should love me for who I am. And so he throws Ethan outside and shuts him out there.
You know, your typical homophobic father.
Just dad stuff. You know, just dad things. Shutting your kid outside in the apocalypse. It builds character, son.
Character building.
Character.
Go kill some villains.
Yeah. So then the squad is sort of all back together. And then Willem, Phil, and Mr. Martinez are going to go and get the keys. And all you can see is the smudged lipstick all over Mr. Martinez's face. Because obviously he was making out with the preacher wife.
Yeah, and they never bothered to try and
they
tidy
didn't
up.
Clean it up. Like, come on, man. Have
I'm
some self-respect.
Not condoning it, however, at least take the steps to prevent being caught.
Yeah, at least don't be dumb.
Yeah.
And so, though our three amigos have disappeared off to find Jesse, and they find him. I don't know if any of these people know who Jesse is or what he looks like, but they find him.
They
and
know.
Mr. Martinez is like, I got this. And he checks his pulse, checks the pulse of the zombie, and he's like, yeah, he's dead. And then he gets his finger bitten off, because fucking obviously.
Of course a zombie wouldn't have a pulse.
Exactly. There's no blood, like the heart's not beating.
Exactly.
And so Phil's like, oh, you gotta cut off his arm, and they're all like, yeah, you gotta cut off my arm, and Willem's like, I can't. And they're like, you've got to cut off his arm, and he's like, I can't. And then Mr. Martinez is like, come on, you cross-dressing freak. And Willem chops the wrong fucking arm.
Which is absolutely hilarious, by the way.
It is one of the best fucking scenes in the movie. And then they're like, that's the wrong arm. And she's like, shit. So she has to go and hack the other arm. Man, this movie.
It is so good. It's so good.
And then we cut back to the preacher, and he lets Chauveau out of his place where he's been caged up and is trying to manipulate him. He's like, don't you want your parents to love you again? And he's like, well, I guess. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, don't listen to this man.
Yeah.
Why would you listen to this guy? But, you know, he fucking does.
He's young and impressionable.
Yeah. And so there is a slap fight between the wives because Mrs. Martinez is like, hey, can you come here for a minute? And so, like, she goes off somewhere with the preacher's wife and she slaps her, and the preacher's wife's like, oh, I deserved that. And then she slaps her again, and so the preacher's wife just fucking slaps her back.
She's like, I deserved the first one, but not the second one.
Yeah. And then we cut back again, and then Ruben tries to attack Phil. Ruben is Mr. Martinez. This is the only time I've got him written down as Ruben. And Phil fights him off and stabs him in the head. And then I've got that the slap fight is interrupted by zombie growls, and then being like, did you hear that? And then, no. And then another growl, I didn't hear that either. And then zombie Braden gets Mrs. Martinez. And then we cut again to Willem trying to get back into the place where they're all held up, because Willem's run off because there was zombies kicking around. So like our other three have split up. Mr. Martinez is now dead. Phil is out and about, and Willem is trying to get back into this building. But the preacher and his now mind-controlled slave zombie Chauveau block the door and don't let her in, and so she has to run off again. And then some zombies break in and they eat Chauveau right in front of the preacher, and he's like, help me, and the preacher's like, let go, be with God.
God is with you now, my son.
This is for the best, my child. And then there's just this scene of Willem running through like a field with small trees, and he's like hiding behind them, and then there's one point he jumps onto one and clings onto it like a koala, like he's trying to be a fucking spy out in this field.
Yeah.
It is. It's cracking. I'm into it.
I enjoyed it. It was a laugh.
I'm into it. Anything that can, like, knows it's a bit ridiculous, like, I'm into it. It's good. It's the good shit, man.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you.
And then there's sort of like a light, and it cuts away again to Janice running away and into the upstairs part of like the building, and she's running away from the zombies, and then she sort of leaps out of a fucking window, and then she's standing up and beginning to walk away, and a fucking zombie just comes out after her.
Just that simple slapstick humor is...
Slapstick will get me almost every time.
It's just...
I'm into it, man.
Me too. It was was good.
Yeah. And then she goes to, like, she's running away and she goes to crawl under, like, this wire fence and, like, her dress thing comes off, so she's just in, like, her underwear. Like, her shoes get taken off as well. So I've just got hashtag goodbye clothes.
There was half a second where I thought we were gonna get that typical, like...
Oh, the boob scene?
Yeah, I was so sure
I think this was their way of being like, we don't need the boob scene, this would be funnier. Just this creature woman running around in her underwear. And then we cut again. I've noticed that with this movie, kind of like with Temple, there is a decent amount of like cutting because everybody's sort of split up at this point.
I feel like there's considerably more cutting in this one than there was Temple, and I didn't think that possible.
The thing is, I mind it less with this movie.
I do, no, I don't mind it at all, if I'm completely honest with you.
It didn't take away from my enjoyment at all.
No, and I thought it gave some, like, really nice attention to all of the characters.
Yeah, to all of the ongoing storylines.
Yeah, and it was almost as if, like, you know how in some movies with, like, ensemble casts, you get a lot of characters who don't actually interact with each other. Everyone really had a chance of interacting with everyone.
Yeah, that was one of the good things about this, is, like, every character pretty much met every other character, unless they died.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously.
I mean, you can't really meet someone dead.
Well, I mean, you can in this movie. They'll come back as zombies, you know what I mean? Yeah. But then we cut back to Phil, and then I've got Phil versus zombie boxing match, because it's Phil's time to shine. Phil's gonna beat the fuck out of this zombie, and I'm pretty sure it's the zombie version of a guy who she was supposed to fight.
Yeah, I think it was.
And so we get this really cool fucking zombie versus Phil boxing like fight scene, and then Phil punches right through the zombie, like with the heart of the zombie, reaches out the back of it and like pulls it out. It's really cool. But then the zombie bites his own heart and also Phil's hand, and Phil just beats the fucking zombie to death. And then you're like really sad because you're like, Phil got bit.
Yeah.
And there's like some light, and a guy shows up and gives Phil a gun, and then Phil shoots herself through the roof of the mouth.
But this guy, you know that stereotypical, like, look of Jesus or God?
Mm-hmm.
That's what he looked like. He had his long hair down and the light behind him.
Around him, because it was like headlights or something, but it was just a halo of light around him, which was brilliant. So we will cut again, and then it's Janice. She's running out into the road, and she meets the queens in the van that we got a wee snippet of earlier, who were going to meet Willem. And she gets in the van with them, and they run down some cross-dressing zombies. A horde of cross-dressing zombies. And then they get out of the van, and then there's a light again. And it cuts to a doomsday bunker with our guy who looked like Jesus and his pal. And he is called Cooter. So there is our guy Cooter and his brother Roscoe, and they're in like their doomsday sort of bunk, like they're doomsday prepping guys, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we have the two queens from the van, Connie and Tipper, we have Janice, the preacher's wife, and we have Willem. All 6 of them are in this bunker, and they're sort of like waiting out there, and Cooter's like to Willem, he's like, you one of them transistors? Willem's like, hey, fucking excuse me, and he's like, I ain't got no problem, I'm just curious. And then he's like, my brother's a transistor. And I don't know whether maybe his brother's trans then.
Yeah. I don't...
They never really go into it. He's just like, I ain't got no problem with it, my brother's a transistor. And they get a call on the radio, and they're like, oh, it's Mama! It's Ma! Which is like, that's amazing, and she's like, hey, the zombies are heading out there for you boys, you better get a fucking move on in the next couple of minutes. So, and then she's like, oh, if you've got a woman named Janice there, I've got her boy Ethan. And it's like, cool, Ethan's alive. Which, to be honest with you, I'd kind of mildly forgotten about him a little bit.
I did as well, purely because, like, a lot of the time he was just off doing his own thing.
Yeah. Like, just for the vast majority of the time, he just sort of wasn't there. And so they're heading out to Mama's. And Cooter's like, you want some guns? And Tipper's like, nah, none for us. Because Connie's like, ooh. And Tipper's like, no guns for you. And Willem's like, I'll take something discreet. So he's like, I got something just for a special occasion, and Willem gets just like, it's a nice little gun, and then he's like to the preacher's wife, is like, oh, what about you? I've got this one, it goes nice with your top. And I'm like,
a black bit of her bra, and it's like, it's black and black.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is the point where I'm like, this guy, one of the best characters, 100%.
This is the guy that we said was near enough at Phil's tier.
Yeah, near Phil in terms of character tiers. And then I've just got, like, because they're making their way down there, they're running there, and then I've just got Matt is a fucking legend, because this woman is just like, pew pew, this gun's not big enough.
Pulls out a grenade launcher.
Yeah.
Or something.
It's something like that. I don't know a lot about guns.
Oh. So you just get like what feels like 15 minutes worth of just hunting range, like shooting range zombie scene.
Oh my god, it's amazing. And then you've got like, there's a couple of zombies who sort of like run up to Cooter and you're like, oh no, he's gonna die. And he just sort of like smacks them with the gun and then do like a flip over it and then he shoots them in the face. And it's like, yeah, this is it. This is the ones, guys. This is it.
These fight scenes were better than the fight scenes in Avengers.
Yeah.
Hands down.
You want to watch Avengers? No. Watch this. Although there is less Spider-Man, and I do like Spider-Man.
That's fair.
Yeah. And so they all go and get into the vehicles that they've got. They've got like a van thing and like a little truck. And in the back of this van thing, there's like some mother-son bonding where Janice is like, I accept you. You're my boy, Ethan. And it's like, oh, that's sweet. And then Zombie Braden, because they've not shut the back door of this fucking van, Zombie Braden grabs in and bites his mom.
Yeah, which, I'll be honest, I totally felt it coming. I was like,
oh no,
why is it so open?
Yeah, like, as soon as she was having this heart-to-heart conversation with her son in front of this fucking open van door, you knew for a fact that this woman was a way to get fucking pulled out and bit to shit by a zombie. And so, like, they stop fucking Cooter blasts the shit out of Zombie Braden, and they stop the cars, and so Janice is like, you're my religion, Ethan, and wanders off to get shot by Mama, which she does. You hear the gunshot, and you're like, yep, this is Lassie. And so we cut to what is like the last scene of the movie. There's like a couple of shots over some fields and stuff, and they're back at the place, like their original hiding spot, and Willem's like, I'm gonna go freshen up, and wanders back into the place, and like you see like Chauvel's body, and you see like Mrs. Martinez's body. She wanders off and she finds the preacher, and the preacher's like, oh, Beth Ann, you survived. Are there survivors? And she's like, nope, and shoots him in the fucking head.
Totally satisfying end to his arc.
So worth it. Like, if he hadn't died, I would have been unimpressed.
Yeah.
And so she walks back out, and Cooter's like, oh, hey, like, what's up? We heard the gunshot. And she's like, I saw a rat. And he's like, oh, yeah, no, they can be nasty. And the whole time you were like, no, rats are cute.
I was like, no, I love rats.
You're like, stop attacking my babies.
They are the true icons.
Yeah.
Idol.
Yeah. Also, I need to point out the fact that Connie and Tipper aren't here currently. And I was really confused. I was wondering where they were, right?
I know.
But then Cooter's like, hey, like half the population must be dead. You wanna... And then he makes like suggestive movements with his hips. Repopulate to Willem? And Willem's like, well, I hope you're as hung as you are fucking stupid.
I just about died at that line.
That was amazing. And then they're all sort of way to get back into like their vehicles and stuff, and the Connie and Tipper show up in like their original like van car thing, so they must have just been getting their car. And so yeah, so like a lot of the good characters lived. Sad that Phil died.
Yeah, sad that Phil died. I was quite sad about Chauvel.
Yeah. I was shocked when he got killed, but it was all the preacher man's fault, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So, I would 100%, if you're looking for something funny to watch, I would watch it.
Yeah, I would as well. I mean, especially, you know, if you have Amazon Prime, it's free to watch.
Yeah.
So, like, if you're not too invested in it, then it's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not like you're paying to see it.
Yeah. But I think it was worth the watch, and I didn't regret spending my time watching it.
No, I really enjoyed it. And also, like, if you enjoy, like, that kind of B-movie feel, then you'll really like it because it heavily leans in to the fact that, like, it'll have, like, filters over little bits of it, and then, like, that bit where it's like, oh, missing reel, and it, like, has, like, this burn effect and stuff. And, like, the cuts look very much like B-movie cuts. Like, it's really nice. I can understand why maybe some people gave it a low score because maybe it's not their sort of thing and they were like, oh, well, I expected like a straight up horror comedy or a straight up horror film or whatever. But I really enjoyed it, so I would probably watch it again.
Yeah, I would definitely watch it again.
So yeah, our overall marks are totally give it a shot. If you're not super invested in it and you don't like it, it's not like you're going to be wasting heaps of money to see it if you've got Prime. But yeah.
That's it.
Pretty much it. So thank you for joining us. I don't have anything picked out for next time, so I couldn't even begin to fathom what it is that we will watch. And I haven't given Casey permission to pick anything, because I haven't.
You'll see. It'll be my turn.
Yeah, probably. Probably, and you'll pick the worst film you can find.
But to be fair, I mean, the last film was pretty bad.
I mean, it was pretty bad. So, yeah, we will see you next time, and thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye!